Now that we've seen some results, let's talk about how to use CE Cache. To keep things simple, we're going to use a really stripped down template and a lot of imagination. Let's pretend that these areas of the template that say some heavy content here are process intensive areas like embeds or channel entry loops. So for example, right here you might have your header embed, and down here maybe you'll have a footer embed. And we can pretend that this part here in the middle is channel entry loop, or some module calls, or a combination of all sorts of the crazy stuff you all put in your ExpressionEngine templates. I know I do. The first thing we're going to want to do is to add in the CE cache tags. So in order to do that, the syntax is actually pretty simple. All we're really adding here is an exp CE cache it tag, and we are going to give this an ID. You don't have to give your cache items an ID. If they have no ID, they're going to default to item. But it's good practice to do it because if you have several items on one page, then you don't want them all caching to the same name. So it's good practice to give them an ID. By default, we're setting the seconds parameter to 3600 seconds. This is actually also the default out of the box. 3600 seconds is 1 hour, so by default your caches will expire in 1 hour. You can actually override that setting in your config file like so. You can just say CE cache seconds equals 0, and then, so in this case, by setting it to 0, I'm making it so that the cache by default will never expire. What we can do now is go ahead and visit this page, or this template, test. Now that we've visited this template, our content will be cached. We are going to go to the CE cache homepage in the control panel, and in order to get there, we're going to click on Add-ons, Modules, find CE cache in the list, and give it a click. So now that we're here, our current driver, in this case, is the file driver, and it will always show up at the top of the list. So I'm going to click on View Items, and we'll see here that our test template group, our test template, we have an item that was cached with the ID of test. We can click on View Item, and we can view a whole bunch of useful metadata about this item. We can see its full ID path. We can see when it was created, how long it's going to live, and also when it's going to expire. We can also see what size it is. We can actually see exactly how this content was cached to the file. So we notice here that the conditionals were all run and all of our content's been processed. If we refresh this page, the time isn't going to update. Nothing's really going to be happening here, which in most circumstances that's great. We want the content to be cached so it doesn't have to keep processing over and over again. However, let's say that we wanted to make certain areas of our template dynamic, like this logged in conditional and this little date PHP code. And yes, I know there is a native way in ExpressionEngine to do the same thing, but it's just for the sake of showing a tag here. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go back here and delete this cached item, so that the next time we visit this page, we're not going to see it again. It'll be able to refresh the content, essentially. So we see now that no items are found for the file driver, and that's perfect. Let's go ahead and escape our content here. And to escape content, it's really simple. All you have to do is wrap it with escape tags. And you can escape the content even when it's in an embed. say this was an embed, and then in our embed template we had content we wanted to escape, that's fine. You just wrap it in escape tags no matter what depth it's at, and it will be escaped intelligently. Now if we go back and run this template again, when we refresh the page, this should still be dynamic, and we see that it is. The time is changing for us. Let's go back into the back end and take a look and see what the content of this item looks like now. So this is great news. Our heavy content, like our embeds and stuff, that would have all been processed and cached statically, which is exactly what we wanted. But our escape content will still be executed and processed on each page load, which is exactly what we want. Our page will actually show if the person is logged in or not, instead of whoever was on the page when it happened to cache. And also our date string will be constantly updated, like we just saw on the site right here. And that is really the bare necessities of how CE Cache works. For more information on some of the more detailed usages and the other tags that are available, check out the documentation. I've put a ton of time into documenting this add-on and really all my add-ons so that you have a good reference for all the different tags, and they generally have detailed explanations on what all the parameters are, examples, and any pertinent notes that you will need to know. So check out the documentation, and as always, if you need any help, you can contact me in the contact form on my site, shoot an email to software@causingeffect.com, or look at the add-on in the devotee forums and start a new thread there. So before we sign off, I'm also going to give you a quick walkthrough of the control panel and some of the different capabilities that this latest version of CE Cache has. So as you can see here, when we land on this home page for CE Cache, you can clear the cache for each driver either in the site scope or in the global scope. If you click on any of the links in this column, it will actually clear the cache, or all the caches if you click on the bottom link, for the current site. In this column, it will clear the entire cache for each driver, or it will clear all caches for all drivers for all sites, if that makes sense. So it's pretty flexible. Now right here we see that we only have the file and database drivers in this list. If we had memcache, memcached, or APC installed and configured on our server, they would also show up in this column, as well as their respective links. Another thing that's new in this release of CE Cache is channel cache breaking. And essentially what channel cache breaking allows you to do, it allows you to refresh your content if a new entry is posted in a certain channel, or if an entry is updated in a certain channel or deleted in a certain channel. So let's say, for example, that in my site, I'm going to pull up the live site for this. So let's say in my site that I posted a new add-on that I just released. Instead of me having to go in and manually clear all of the related caches for my software, I can actually have some channel cache breaking settings to take care of that for me automatically. So right here in the software section, I'm going to click on this cache break settings link. We can see that I have already set up to clear and refresh any items that have been tagged with the word software. And I also want to remove all global rating items. And I also want to clear out any cached items that are non-global that are in the software section. I can easily add more items and paths, and I can also add more tags. So if you actually wanted to clear a specific item, you would specify, this is my one-hand type, by the way, so you would specify the actual path to the item and then the item ID. Let's say I wanted to clear all the items inside the test section of my site. I could just do that. As long as it ends with a trailing slash, it will go through and it'll find all of the items that are descendants of this path. If that's a lot to take in, you can read some of the instructions here. It will kind of spell it out for you. Another really revolutionary aspect of the latest release of CE Cache is that you have the ability to automatically refresh your non-global cache items. Basically, when I update a channel and my cache breaks, I have the option to have it recreate any of the non-global items. So instead of me having to go back and visit every URL in the software section to get all those caches built back again, I can just click this checkbox and enable this feature, and after these items are all deleted, they'll all be basically built back again with the latest content. Another thing that's really nice is if you had a channel that had thousands of entries in it and you wanted to clear your cache, you can imagine the burden your server would be under if all those caches were recreated at the same time. It might crash your site. Well, I built in this feature that you can specify a number of seconds to wait between deleting and caching each item so that your server can really spread out the workload and it can progressively delete and cache each item over a matter of seconds or minutes instead of trying to do it all at one time. Obviously, I'm not going to have thousands of add-ons yet, so I can just leave this at 0. And the truth is, even when it's at 0, there's still going to be a delay in between deleting and refreshing the items of between 0.2 and 1 seconds. So you can keep that in mind too. It's not like you're literally going to have every item hit at the exact same second. That is really the basics of using CE Cache. One more quick note is that even when you're on the View Items page, you also have the ability to refresh these items now. So if you click delete, it'll say, do you want to delete it? And then also ask you if you want to refresh the items. And it also gives you the ability to delay the refresh a number of seconds. So I can click, yes, I'm sure, delete the items with a 2-second delay and go back to the file items, and this item has now been recreated and it happened very recently. So that concludes our CE Cache introductory video series. I hope you enjoy it and I hope it makes your sites faster than ever. I hope you impress your clients in under a second.